at least in this matchup, are going to be something that Surrender is looking for.
Okay. Well, let's see how we go in game number 3. Surrender versus Staz 1-1. This is for the first match of their league careers here. Surrender has the BGH, and then Clockwork Goblin, Augmented Elic, and a Shield Slam. So some minions at least to pile on some early pressure. But what are you making of Staz's opening hand here, Language Hacker? Is Staz feeling good?
So with Conjurer's Calling in hand, it's kind of nice because as soon as you stick anything, you can make it. You at least have the option to make 2 of them. No Book of Specters, and another benefit of having Conjurer's Calling in your hand, twofold. One, it means when you play Malacrass, so you have an extra copy of Conjurer's Calling. And 2, you're much less concerned that your Book of Spectres will discard that.
Right, yeah. It's definitely the fear factor. Whenever I'm sure everyone's done who's played this deck, you play Book of Spectres, say on 2, and you're like, just not Conjurer's Calling.
Yeah.
Actually, I'd rather not have a Giant and not draw Conjurer's Calling. That's a fair trade-off. But speaking of Giants, I think they heard me because 2 just came knocking on the door for Staz. So he has 2 in hand now. Next turn he can play 1 flat, but this turn already starting to see a bit of a problem that this deck has. If Surrender or any other deck plays some early minions, you are limited for options, and if you do play stuff out, well, your Giants can move further and further into the distance.
Staz opting to ping here. Not a whole lot he can do. I don't think he wants to play out an Ooze. With these 2 Giants in hand, he wants to wait, draw more cards, make them cheaper so that he can pair them with a Conjurer's Calling. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him just play out a Mountain Giant. If he had a Dragon in hand, he could consider coining out the Scale Worm to clear out the Elic. But without a Dragon, I think he just has to wait for these Mountain Giants to come online.
Yeah, I wonder about the ping as well, because the ping to the minion, puts it within range of, say, Ooze. But it's already within range of Scale Worm. It's obviously within range of a Mountain Giant, and the 1 armor might have made a difference when you consider Shield Block, Hero Power, plus 1 armor actually, gets you there for a Giant in terms of a Shield Slam.
Well, that costs 6 mana is the issue.
Oh, I just mean over the course of a couple of turns, because if you don't get to hit him in the face, then maybe that 1 ping makes it just that little bit easier for Surrender to get to the armor required.
I think he was expecting to play a Mountain Giant this turn. And if the Mountain Giant does come down, the 3 health left over in the Elic can be cleaned up with his Lex perhaps turn after, if he doesn't decide to Conjurer's Calling, or if the Giant gets answered, for example.
Okay, well, the double bomb did shuffle, and if the last game is anything to go by, then these bombs start turning up real quick when Surrender's throwing them out. And we'll see if the same happens again, but... Also choosing not to magnetize the Ziliax, wants to trade and push a bit of extra damage to face.
Lets him clear a minion and go face with the Clockwork Goblin, and also means that if Staz has a Voodoo Doll, it's not going to give him a good target now. Voodoo Dolling something with 2 health isn't that appealing, but if it was a 6/5, yeah, okay.
And also as well, you start to just look at Surrender's hand, and there's the Wrench Caliber, which is going to push minimum 3, because he's going to equip it and probably swing it that turn, because it's a bomb. And also 6 more on board means that I think Staz wanted to play a Giant, saw this turn, is now thinking about not playing a Giant because he's scared. But I also think he maybe should have played a Giant anyway and just said, well, if you clear it off, you probably have to use minions. And that's fine. But instead, going with Ziliax, it does mean that there's the Giant next turn into coin, Conjurer's Calling can happen. So playing a little bit slower, but slow isn't always bad.
I think with the Big Game Hunter techs, if Staz plays out a Mountain Giant and just gets Big Game Huntered with Surrender already having minions on board, it can become a real problem, because that's how the early damage adds up, and then the bomb chips start to get you. This way, he guarantees an extra minion when he plays the Giant. He can Giant coin Conjurer's Calling for 7 mana here with a coin. That way, even with Big Game Hunter, there's still a secondary minion left on the board that Surrender has to deal with, and if he doesn't, the second Conjurer's Calling can come out.
He's actually not going to Conjurer's Calling. He's going to remove the weapon. Doesn't want to die, doesn't want to lose another game to bombs right now. But I think as well, it's purely because he has Giant number 2 in hand.
Agreed.
So he can actually Giant and do the same turn, except just 1 mana more expensive the following time.
Again, keeping Big Game Hunter in mind, Staz's play, if Surrender has a Big Game Hunter, Big Game Hunter comes down, what else can Surrender do for 2 mana? Not a whole lot. You're probably not shield slamming an Ooze. So this way, you get rid of the weapon, you get rid of the extra bomb being shuffled into your deck, and this also lets you clean up the Clockwork Goblin in the case of, say, a Big Game Hunter.
Okay, well, let's see how it plays out then, because Surrender does have Dr. Boom, or Blastmaster Boom, sorry.
Right.
I will differentiate those two a little bit better going forward, as I believe we are going to be seeing a lot of them. But he's just going to get that big game hunter down. You know, this is literally what it's for, killing off a giant, and especially when it's not been Conjurer's Call, that's about as good as it's going to get in this matchup. Is just going to push a bit more damage to face though and ignore the use. I like it.
Staz still has the option to go Giant Coin Conjurer's Calling. With one big game hunter gone, you probably want to see, all right, how much armor does Surrender have to work with? Is it possible that if I do this, the Giant can get answered and then the board can try to deal with the rest of what Staz is developing? But I think with the Ooze setup, this means that the Giant Coin Conjure is going to be very difficult to answer. Even with a Shield Slam, there's going to be a second half left over.
I think for me as well is because Hexlord Malacras has a Conjurer's Coin in the pool, just do it. Like, you know, if he gets you again and clears everything off, well, you have the second version of the Conjurer's Call from the Twin Spell effect, and then you Malacras and get another Conjurer's Call, and there's another one still in the deck. So I feel like, you know, you don't want to wait for Surrender to get Boom. You want to just accelerate this game, and I feel like maybe that's the change in game plan from Staz, or the change I would like to see, is him to be way more aggressive and say, okay, if you've got the odd piece of removal here and there, fine, but as long as you don't draw Boom on curve, I can actually pressure you way, way more. And that's what he's doing right now.
Second big game hunter draw is actually very big for Surrender. This is the second giant he's seen come down, so if he deals with this, the Conjurer's Calling, while still useful, are going to have, you know, fewer targets, or the minions that Staz develops that he wants the Conjurer's Calling are going to be a bit easier to deal with.
So it's a big game hunter.
Yeah, it's a big game hunter.
One mana off a really nice turn.
Yeah,
like,
being able to weave in the shield block and a shield slam
would have been so
that'd be a
sick.
pretty pick swing. But the important thing to note again is that Surrender's not dying. Obviously, Staz has a board now, but the big game hunters buy him enough time to get to the point where he can actually play Omega Devastators and then start taking back tempo.
He's just going to go for the armor up and get the trade off. He would have obviously loved to have the mana to do the shield block instead and save the 3-3, but still, that is just one huge set of threats gone for Staz. And Surrender's feeling happy. At worst, he has a 4-2 that we've seen that he's been taking opportunities when possible to actually push face as much as he can. The only problem now is, outside of the shield block, Surrender's getting a little bit dry, and it's something that happened in the previous game as well. He did run out of resources, and really, the Boom was all that was keeping him in it. He would have got stomped if he didn't get Boom when he did.
Not a whole lot Staz can do this turn. It's just one minion at a time, unfortunately. He could go Conjurer's Calling on a weaker minion, a 5-drop, but I'm not sure if that's what he wants to do. I think he wants to make something bigger. He does have another Conjurer's Calling, obviously, in the Hexlord and another one in the deck, but I think you need more... You need bigger things on board. I don't think medium things will get there.
Yeah, I was considering it. It would be slow, but the Dragon Maw Scorcher plus Ping at least gives you a clean 3-5 on the board. The problem is it is weak to Dynamatic. And so he did just go with the Astromancer instead and got a pretty good one. Sunwalker means that there's going to be something else along with extra damage for this big game hunter to do anything else now.
One man off from Surrender's point to be able to deal with this with just Warpath. So it's not quite an option yet.
He can still Warpath once, play Town Crier, get the
Militia Commander?
Militia Commander and clear the board, right?
You'd have to Warpath twice. The first... Oh, yeah, the Militia Commander
kills the 4-5, and then the 4-2 Big Game Hunter goes into 5-5.
And Surrender's already played the Ziliax, so he knows that the Militia Commander is guaranteed.
Yeah, 100% out pull from the Town Crier. I mean, it feels a little bit bad to use the Warpath, but I feel like in the previous game, Surrender got very fortunate to be able to actually Warpath clear boards. So I think I like this. It utilizes resources, he draws cards.
And it puts you ahead on the board.
Yeah, exactly. And he has something exists on the board for him. And Staz has to start from scratch again, and I think that's really powerful.
Ooh. I like this a lot. So this, from Surrender's point, pushes, A, it pushes damage, B, it leaves even more on board. He's using the Shield Slam very offensively here, not defensively. I believe Staz is only running one copy of Dragon Maw Scorcher.
Yeah.
So Surrender's saying, all right, well, Dragon Maw Scorcher is pretty good here, but if you don't have it, I'm pushing a lot of damage. This gives me a way to win.
And if you do have it, even, we were talking about this before, but Dragon Maw Scorcher Ping, right, clears the board fantastic. But even with Conjurer's Calling, they're only 5 drops. So they're about as manageable as a minion's going to get that gets conjured in this deck.
So this is Surrender setting up for Blastmaster Boom. I believe there's 2 bombs in the deck. 4 boom bots popping out.
Can even get a cheeky draw as well. Shield block first, depending on what he draws.
Right.
And then decide. He can still just play boom afterwards or not.
There must be a way.
Staz just taking his time now. He needs to work out what he wants to do, but the Dragon Ball Scorcher seems pretty good to me, but he's going to avoid it.
Oh, this is interesting. He did just see a warpath. Oh,
So
he's
he
choosing to
wants...
ping
He has to, right? He's only on 9 mana.
Oh,
So,
you're right.
yeah, but what this is okay. So, you were completely correct. He saw the warpath, which means that this 2-1 is very safe. And the reason this 2-1 is a threat is because it costs 7 mana. So, he can Conjurer's Call, the Giggling Inventor, summon some 7 drops, but Surrender just picked up the warpath number 2. So, he can still warpath and get some work done here and play the boom.
It's still a little awkward with the commander left at 1 health, because if it was at 2 health, for example, the warpath could go off once, the commander could clean up something, and then play the Blastmaster boom. Another possibility is playing the Blastmaster boom and then warpathing, but I believe you want the boom bots on board.
Yeah, because you don't have rush, you want them down to just choose targets next turn.
Right.
I like this. That's some boom bots.
I don't know how we keep miscounting these bombs left in the deck.
We're just bad. We're just bad at bomb counting. We'll get the mouse moved in a second on the spectator for you guys, as we're just hovering over. Yes, that is a boom bot. We remember. It's a death round deal 1 to 4 damage, and maybe win the game, maybe not, as we saw from Surrender last game.
Staz having 10 mana to work with now. No Voodoo Doll in sight. This Blastmaster boom looks like it's sticking, at least for now. You could try Unseen Saboteuring, hoping maybe there's a brawl in Surrender's hand. Malacrass doesn't
tough,
do a whole
isn't it?
lot.
Just with the 1 card. Ugh. I did wonder last turn, and hindsight and such, I did wonder whether Dragon Ball Scorcher leave the 1/1 on the board and just play Rotten Apple Bomb as well was decent, just to put multiple minions down.
He had 9 mana.
Oh yeah, I told you he had 9 mana. God,
He could have gone Dragon Ball Scorcher Conch Calling to just put
true.
something.
That's true. Yeah. In a similar vein. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Boom, 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 boom.
Oh boy.
Someone carry on the lyrics at
I
home.
expect he's gonna follow up with the Rotten Apple. Oh my goodness.
Ah, so hard it froze the screen for a second there, but that is a lot of damage. Staz falls.
The server wasn't ready for that many bombs.
No, follows up with a Rotten Apple Bomb. Omega Assembly is a great pickup for Surrender. Not the best mechs in the world, but still it just gives him stuff to do.
Apple Bomb will heal him up to 12, so with at least 3
Remember,
bombs.
there's 3 bombs in the deck.
Yeah, 12 is enough.
Jeez.
Sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
I don't expect Surrender is going to be spending his mana playing this Steambot this turn, so I think he's going to want to draw with Shield Block, find something else to do. These are a little underwhelming. If he happens to find something like an Omega Devastator, he can use that on the Rotten Apple Bomb.
I think Steambot might not be so bad post-draw because it does defend the boom.
True.
And at the moment, 7 damage is just almost lethal.
So the Spark coming down from the...
Yeah, I think I like this actually.
Yeah.
Trade off the Sparks.
Actually, this does make sense, yeah.
Yeah, because then the boom's safe. It's safe from ping. There isn't a lot of removal in the deck apart from like Voodoo Dolls, for example.
Which he knows that Staz doesn't have, so this denies maybe a Scale Worm coming out and being able to clear off the boom.
He's already seen the Dragon Maw because it's on the board, so he can't Dragon Maw ping again. I like it.
Could book a Spectres to try and find a Voodoo Doll to clean up that Blastmaster boom. Otherwise, I don't see how else it's getting cleared. He could Conjurer's Calling the Steambot, but that puts more power into the board, even though it lets you get to the boom.
It's really tough, isn't it? Suddenly, just once again, even without Dr. Boom, the hero version, he's putting a lot of pressure in. I'm not sure how, but Staz just isn't sticking big minions. It's tough. Like, Surrender's done a great job of keeping this clean and wrestling for the board every single turn.
I think Staz might have been taking it a bit too slowly on some of these turns. Even the Giggling Inventor, which is a 2-turn setup, it leaves him open to some ways that Surrender can just take control of the board, and this is what happens. Like, if Staz had more health to work with, the board that Surrender has can be dealt with over time, but Surrender using his tools offensively and being able to push damage with that one turn we saw him use Shield Slam on oh boy. 7, 8, 9, 10. 11?
Even better though, he can still put him within lethal range and clear the board, right? Which is going to be key. Because he can deal 7 goes to face.
Yeah.
I
don't see a world where that's trading.
Yeah, I think the Super Collider is going to hit though.
So just to decide how much of the of his board he wants to use for trading.
Yeah, I think if you Super Collider the 6/6, it hits whatever. Doesn't really matter. It goes down to 2. You can put the 2/1 in to the Temple Enforcer, I want to call it. And then, so that's cleaned up, and then you can just go face with the rest. Oh, so he's gonna save the damage and put 2 minions in. I don't know if he needed to do this. Oh.
Ooh, this could be. I want him to swing with the Blastmaster Boom if he's gonna play the automatic. I think that Blastmaster Boom is not a mech.
Blastmaster Boom is not a mech. Let's see if Surrender remembers on at this second in time realizes that he could be. There we go. Okay. I was like, please don't lose this game because of that.
I'm sure he
that
remembered.
Would be savage.
Yeah, I think he was deciding, do I want to actually set him to 5, or can I win by just continuing to clear the board?
I think here, Surrender bailed out of the decision. I think he slightly messed up because, for me, there's no reason not to take 6 there and keep a 1/3 on the board.
Right.
There's no reason. Look at his health.
As much tempo as you want, yeah.
Look at his health. It's like he's got plenty. He could be minus 3 extra now and be fine. So I think Surrender made a midway through sort of divergent path in his decision making and bailed out. And whether that comes back to bite him, we're going to find out probably pretty quickly right now. But at the end of the day, there are bombs in the deck, and Staz is on a number that adds up to a bomb.
Drawing can be scary. The Book of Specters doesn't.
Harrison Jones.
Yeah.
He's doing it. I think he has to. I think he has to.
I believe he
no,
has to.
shake of the head. Surrender.
Boy.
The first one off the top as well. Boom. Boom. There we go. Surrender takes his first match of Grandmasters. 2-1. Very close series. Staz doesn't look too happy. And